Thank you for joining our presentation today on women employees in the sport industry, organizational elements of workplace and job engagement. My name is Alicia Romano, and I am joined here with my colleagues Logan, Schuetz, and Tyler Hajek.
In today's work climate, employees appear to be disengaged due to stress, burnout, and an unhealthy work-life balance. At least in the United States, now hiring signs are commonplace. Lower levels of employee engagement can lead to a sense of decreased morale, job burnout, and workaholism. In turn, this can stimulate high turnover rates that are highly concerning and expensive for sport organizations. Specifically, employees that are disengaged with their job roles may not identify with their organization or even connect with their organizational goals, as Atteridge in 2009 indicated. While I believe Logan can attest to his experience working in sport, Alicia can lean on her experiences being a female in sport, I have been able to witness the turnover firsthand. In one sport organization, an incoming class of sport employees nearly turned over fully within a year. Thus, sport is an interesting arena to further examine organizational elements in work environments. Historically, sport has been a gendered space. A gender gap has been noted by previous scholars in the field of sport management particularly. Early on, the story of sport management was told by men without a holistic view provided by all genders. Specifically, women have been at times marginalized and even neglected for and in consideration for leadership roles in sport. In this study, the intention was to explore if this is still the case. And for me, I've been fortunate to have considerate knowledgeable mentors and supervisors in various realms of sport, as well as higher education, and a variety of them identified as women. So part of our purpose and subsequent research questions were derived from this and my colleagues' experiences to see if there are better ways to anticipate what enhances the engagement of employees, specifically women, in collegiate sport in the US. The purpose of this study can be divided into 4 primary objectives. Investigate the representation of women collegiate sport employees in the United States, utilize person-organization fit, PO fit, for short, and perceived organizational success to predict engagement, which Logan will provide more information on these constructs in the literature review, address the relative neglect of identifying antecedents of job engagement for women sport employees, and discover to what degree women are engaged in their roles in sport.
Thanks, Tyler. So our first construct that we have in our study is job engagement. Briefly put, Sachs 2006 defined job engagement as a deeper level of job satisfaction. It's reaching a deeper mental state in the workplace where time almost seamlessly goes by without any reason because of the engagement level is so deep. Engagement has been popularized in the general management field for years. However, it's been relatively untouched within sport management rather than a few articles in the past 5 to 10 years. A unique element of this study that we are looking at is breaking job engagement by gender. So understanding a women's level of engagement can facilitate and improve organizational work climates related to attitude, objectives, and behavior. So this has been proven in the business literature, but the important element that ties back to our study is, are business organizations related to sport organizations when it comes to how women's experiences and interactions take place in the workplace? So overall, engagement has been suggested to be an important variable within sport organization, and this study is one element in furthering that viewpoint. So the second construct of our study is PO fit, and briefly defined, this by Sachs and Ashford 2002 is how an employee relates to their organization and how their organization relates back to them. So this is elevated when there's commonalities and similarities and overall alignment between characteristics, beliefs, and values. Once again, PO fit is an emerging construct in the field of sport management, really taking place in the last 5 to 10 years in the OB studies. However, it has yet to be looked at across genders to see how men and women differently perceive and experience PO fit. And the most interesting construct of our study that rarely gets analyzed in the field of sport management is perceived organizational success. So briefly put, this is how one perceives their organization when they are winning or losing, and how that comes back to affect them in the workplace. So overall, previous studies have looked at that and observed that it's a very relatable construct to employee performance. Therefore, if an employee is performing well, their organization should have more success. Therefore, they're perceiving their organization as having more success. Employees that perceive their organization, that see their organization as outperforming its competition, tend to enjoy and relish in this prestige and success. And again, we see this in a lot of college athletics, specifically within this population here, where we are surveying women in sport employees that range anywhere from small Division I group of 5 schools all the way up to the large Power 5 schools. There's different levels of success at all of these different levels. But again, it's a construct that's relatively new in sport and has yet to be looked at across genders. So overall, our research questions for this study are the following. Our first research question is, women sport employees' person-organization fit will influence their job engagement. And the second is, women sport employees' perceived organizational success will influence their job engagement. So within that, we've come up with the following model. You can see our H1, our first hypothesis on the top, where person-organizational fit, PO fit, will have a strong positive correlation with job engagement. And then on the second part there, perceived organizational success also having a direct correlation, a positive interaction with job engagement.
In order to do this, we sampled a group of American collegiate sport employees and collected a test to do, it was 3 research questions for the study. And after the participants were selected and data was collected, we used our studio to analyze this data. A random sample technique was utilized to gather these participants by randomly selecting them within the collegiate sport organizations with their emails from their online staff directories. This email communication was utilized for that recruiting and was deemed suitable to form recruitment for potential participants in survey research. The survey received responses from over 300 collegiate athletic department employees, of which 139 women responded. The average age of these women participants was 29, with a range of 22 to 68 years of age. Moreover, the average tenure of just over a decade, ranging from 1 to 37. So of the 139 women respondents, 85% identified as white, 10% identified as African American, 2% Asian, and 3% other. So there were 3 instruments used to measure the constructs in this research model, all of which were Likert scales, with 1 being strongly disagree to 7 being strongly agree. The participants were asked to evaluate their own PO fit, job engagement, and perceived organizational success. The PO fit measure was taken from Judge and Cable's instrument, which had demonstrated acceptable reliability and validity metrics at an alpha of 0.8. Job engagement was measured with SACS of 2006, which was an instrument that was also accepted reliable and validity with the metrics of an alpha of 0.82. And perceived organizational success was measured with Wayne and Dahlen's 1994 instrument. This instrument was actually used to evaluate teams' perception of past, present, and future performance, which each were demonstrated to be acceptable reliability and validity metrics from a range of 0.86 all the way to 0.93. So before performing the multiple linear regression model, descriptive statistics were explored, and the measurement models were analyzed using Cronbach alpha. The cutoff value that we used was 0.74 standard factor analysis, which suggests a good model fit. The multiple linear regression was utilized to investigate the effects of PO fit and perceived organizational success on job engagement of women sport employees. However, the model's assumptions were not met. Therefore, we did have to do a Box-Cox transformation, and it was performed where the model assumptions were a good fit. We used an alpha level of 0.05 as our statistical significance when looking at the multiple linear regression model. So for our results, you can see that the Cronbach alpha results show that job engagement, PO fit, and perceived organizational success all yield good model fits. Looking at that value recommended threshold of 0.7. The Cronbach alphas results are similar to previous scholars who use the same multi-item scales. So these results supported the construct, reliability, and validity of the multi-item scale. The multiple linear regression yielded the following results of goodness of fit indices for the model. As you can see, PO fit perception has a significant positive influence on job engagement with that p-value of less than 0.001. However, perceived organizational success did not significantly influence job engagement. This result supports hypothesis 1, but did not support hypothesis 2. So you can see in our model, perceived organizational success did not have an influence on job engagement, where PO fit had a strong influence on job engagement.
So to summarize our results, women's personal organization fit was found to significantly influence job engagement in the sport industry. This is very similar to similar findings outside of sport, briefly saying that if one fits with their organization, has same alignment in values, characteristics, and benefits, they're going to be more influenced to perform their job to the best of their ability in reaching this state of job engagement. And thus, in a practical sense, PO fit aligning with job engagement and the long hours that are well known as to be a sport employee show great benefits from this study. Very meaningful results that can be alluded in our practical implications section later on. This also connects to previous findings of increased PO fit indicating higher attraction to their organization, similar to the Christoph Brown et al. Study in 2005, and increased value fit suggesting higher engagement. So again, like I just mentioned, very, very similar to similar findings outside of the field of sport, but it's important that we look at it inside sport, as not all organizations and not all industries are relatively the same. This also suggests that a women's positive, active mental state of motivation is not impacted by their perceived organizational success. This is also very interesting. Simply put, this is saying that no matter, regardless if an individual finds their organization as being perceived organizationally successful or not, it will not affect how they engage in the workplace. Therefore, that's good to know as a sport leader, sport manager, that your employees are not, their engagement levels aren't going to change whether the team wins or not. How they initially come in and perceive the organization, if it's successful or not, that's not going to contribute to how one engages in the workplace. So unlike perceived team performance, women's perceived organizational success was not found to significantly influence job engagement in the collegiate sport industry. Again, just restating that there's other elements similar to PO fit that are good, positive employee competencies that will relate, that will correlate positively with job engagement, but it's also good that organizational success and what is out of one's control, like perceived organizational success, team performance, will not contribute negatively to how one engages in the workplace.
As with any empirical research, the current study is not without limitations. However, the limitations of the study should be considered alongside its contributions. Only individuals identifying as female and in middle management roles in collegiate athletics were surveyed in the United States. In expanding this group of targeted participants to individuals in entry roles as well as executive positions on various ends of the spectrum as far as experience is concerned, may yield further insight. Researchers may consider replicating the study in other fields in sport management, not limited to youth sport, professional sport, and minor league sport. Additionally, comparison of other genders in athletics may elicit varying levels of PO fit and job engagement, as well as exploring other employee outcomes and other potential antecedents could be examined in relation to women's sport employees, such as job satisfaction and organizational commitment, whereas engagement does not necessarily translate to someone enjoying their job or refer to their commitment to the organization long-term. The results of this study imply the potential for enhanced organizational performance and capacity through the advanced understanding of women's sport employees. Improve women's sport employee job engagement as suggested by Sevenson et al. In 2021, and PO Fit are considered as positive features that can contribute to competitive advantages for sport orgs. The contribution of this study suggests for sport industries can increase women's PO Fit as they increase their measures of profitability as suggested by Adler in 2001 due to their engagement. Furthermore, sport organizations should take the time to better identify the fit of a prospective employee. Practitioners in sport can create a comprehensive, specific list of values innate and needed for their sport organization or athletic department to operate and ultimately succeed. Thus, this might assist in the recruitment and hiring processes for prospective employees and not necessarily see money tied to overhead, the training go down by the wayside. With the shifting features of the workplace, women's sport employees and their subsequent relationships with the positive effects on job engagement and PO Fit, this can be considered a strength for these organizations due to the advantages derived from having engaged and organizationally fit employees. Additionally, the study suggests that although perceived organizational success may not be as linked to well-being as was initially found by Herbach and Mikognick in 2004, it might be suggested that an individual's well-being can be influenced by other organizational aspects such as PO Fit, as suggested by OJ et al. In 2019. This does not necessarily require an individual to perceive their organization as successful, as Logan mentioned earlier. Thus, sport organizations should focus more on the well-being of their employees and their perceived success of their organization.
The findings in this study highlight the positive relationship between PO Fit to job engagement in women collegiate sport employees. As the profession in sport has largely been a male represented field, the increase of women within this field of study is closing the gender gap in collegiate sports. While strong identification with an organization may be important, it does not necessarily predict job performance. Rather, we're looking to emphasize the emphasis be placed on the integration of employees into an organizational system. Thus, the non-significance of perceived organizational success may not carry as much importance for recruiting, training, and retaining diverse, talented employees. So finding employees that align with organizational goals and outcomes, as well as better connecting to their values, may assist in the increased productive engagement of sport employees.
Thank you so much for taking your time to join us for our presentation. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask us. And our emails are below. And if you have any inquiries about our references, we can provide those upon request. Thank you again for inviting us to the conference for the Asian Association for Sport Management.